Why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh? This is a question that comes to mind almost every time I go to my local Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and it's never something that I ask myself. I do often mean it in a bad way, something like, why are you even playing the game? Go do something else. Why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh? However, it is also a genuine question. Why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh the way you do? That is a real question I want to ask everyone watching this video, because that question opens up the possibility for some real answers. Maybe you only play at your local tournaments or free events because you play in a casual sense, or you just don't want to drop too much money on the game. Maybe you go to the regional tournaments, hoping to win big and take the stage at the YCS World Championships. Or maybe you play the online games because they're free to play and have wonderful automatic systems. Regardless of such, you 100% have your reasons for doing so. Maybe that's all you can do right now. You have a busy schedule and one day you want to do more. Or maybe you're winding down from years of being a super competitive player, and instead of aiming for the top, you're just relaxing at your local tourneys and enjoying the social aspect. Any answer is a fair answer and one deserving of respect. After all, we all love playing Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Well then, now that the question has been answered, this video is now over. Or it would be, if that is what I meant. When I say why do you play Yu-Gi-Oh the way you do, I'm not asking about how you play Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm asking about the way that you play Yu-Gi-Oh. It may just be that my own bias is affecting my observations, but I swear that you guys really don't like playing this game. You just like winning. And it's honestly kind of obvious to tell. And no, I don't mean because some people play meta or rogue and others just play straight up bad strategies like pure blue eyes. You can tell based on the cards used in your deck. A person who plays for fun, even at a high level of competitive play, will use a strategy like Trap Tricks and mix it with something like Dogmatica Ecclesia and Fleur-de-Lis, or take the Bestials and add in Stardust Synchron and Shooting Majestic Star Dragon. Or hell, maybe you're still playing Cyber Dragons with Clockwork Knights and Therion King Regulus because you just absolutely love the deck. In my Fortune Lady deck, I run Albaz and Ecclesia as board breakers and combo starters. I also play Magician Souls for drop power and easier level manipulation. In my Stardust Dragon deck, I use Shooting Riser Dragon, Shooting Star Dragon, Majestic Star Dragon, and Shooting Majestic Star Dragon. I also play some of the Synchro spells, searchable with Duelist Genesis, and as an added bonus, I just so happen to love every single card in that deck. But for people who like winning more than playing, your deck is bland and soulless. You run the exact same cards everyone else using that deck does. There is maybe the slightest trace of your personality within your deck, which is usually what hand traps you use and the strategy you're playing. Every single deck that tops at events is the same. There is no variety within the meta, and that's because the cards that would be varied are filled in by the few ridiculously strong staples we currently have. Every Mannadium deck is the same, regardless of whether it's Mannadium Bestial, Pure Mannadium, or Mannadium Scareclaw. The deck itself is always the same with a very slight difference. Do you play some Kashtira cards in Nibiru, or do you run spell-based board breakers, or are you playing hand traps? And this is a visible trend. If you look at two people playing Rika, just like the Mannadium decks I mentioned, as well as literally any other popular strategy, they are playing the same deck with maybe a 6 to 12 card difference. But I promise you, those 6 to 12 cards are either triple tactics talents and thrusts, hand traps, or board breakers. There's two main reasons for this. The first one is because these decks are solved. There is an optimal set of cards you can use to most effectively navigate your way through duels with any other deck. Of course, that optimal way is based entirely on the current format's meta, and for better or worse, just about every single Yu-Gi-Oh archetype or deck or strategy is solved. There is an objective best amount of each card to use, based purely on what the card itself does. However, that objective best amount is only for a general variation of that strategy. Your own version will always differ because of your goals with that deck and what those goals require. Let's pretend there are some upcoming tournaments and you're looking for a new deck to play. You look online and see a deck list for a strategy that is quite popular. The person using it came first at the regional tournament. You look at this deck and you build it. A few cards differ based on what you own or what you find works best for you. So you have selected the archetype you like and the method of play you enjoy. You've officially found the best strategy you have to win, and that's actually where I can celebrate with you. You found a way to play that you enjoy. But then you're just one of however many people playing those exact same cards in the exact same way. The same combos into the same interruptions, and Yeah, I, again, am fully aware that that is not always your decision. Sometimes archetypes do have an objective best way to be played because of how the cards within that archetype work. But that innocence is very limited. While the cards from that archetype might be solved, you chose to add Barone instead of using the archetype's level 10 Synchro. You chose to put in 12 interruptions instead of more supporting cards. You chose to put in Crimson Dragon specifically to summon Dissipator or King Calamity. And I cannot see the appeal in building a deck like that. Is there really not a card you love so much that you put it into everything you play? Not because it's meta relevant or because it's good, but because you simply love the card. Is there nothing in the Yu-Gi-Oh game that you find so much joy in that you want to ensure you can use it even if it has a couple drawbacks or just a super niche use? Well, there probably is. I mean, you for sure have a favorite monster. Everyone does. I can't put a Starlight Road and Stardust Dragon into every deck I play, no matter how much I may want to, because at a certain point, it just doesn't work at all within the deck strategy. And honestly, that's completely fine. But having a one-to-one carbon copy of a deck someone else is playing, except yours has a pink bow tied around it, it's just disappointing. What are you representing? What are you aiming for with your deck? Is your goal simply to win? Does it not matter what happens so long as you obtain victory? Or do you want to win with that strategy in particular? Do you want to win with heroes? Do you want to prove Kishira is still the best deck in the format no matter how good Pearly or Unchained are? Well, that's all fine and dandy, but with the deck list you're using, literally anyone playing that strategy can achieve the same thing. Your deck should represent yourself, and should have something you want to represent. There should be something within your deck that, if someone sees, will immediately be attributed to your character and not just the meta. Though I recognize a lot of people probably find joy in simply playing the game in such a competitive environment, and that's awesome. The second reason is, as I mentioned, this current format is solved. There are non-archetypal cards that can be put into many other decks which boost the win rate of that deck. That is the true drawback of this meta. Generic boss monsters that have ridiculously strong effects are incredibly easy to summon when combined with the other staples of this meta. Pretty much any Synchro archetype is playing the literal exact same extra deck. Baronne de Fleur, Dissipator, Crimson Dragon, Cypher Omega, Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, and obviously normal Stardust Dragon. If you're playing Plants or Machines, well, throw in the Therion cards. Running a deck that can use the extra deck in any way you want? Why not use Baguska, SP Little Knight, IP Masquerena, and Appaloosa? Oh, throw in Zeus and Typhon while you're at it. Go forward and play the same cards literally everyone else is playing. All of these insanely different archetypes are using and abusing these same powerful cards. Looking at your end boards, you might as well be playing the exact same deck. People keep telling me Yu-Gi-Oh has always had a very linear and decisive meta. And that is not an excuse. You're just saying, the game has always been bad, and expecting me to go, oh, okay then. But no, I'm not gonna accept that. You choose what to play, so play something fun and unique. That's what this video is for. I want to encourage people to actually play the game. Throw yourself into your decks. I'm sure it's fun for you to hit that Pearly Darkwold combo and hand rip me for 5, or to set up a Vanadium, 2 hand rip, 2 Omnis, and an Omni counter trap. But is that fun to do over and over? It seems like you just don't want your opponent to play. But if you really don't want your opponent to play, then why are you playing a 2-player game? Your goal should never be to shut someone out so entirely that only one person actually plays the game. And it saddens me that the Yu-Gi-Oh meta is literally just, you don't get to play the musical Me vs. You, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, starring that tall skinny guy who smokes between rounds and that one kid with an AI art deck box. There's a lot of things I actively think about when I'm building a deck or looking into an archetype. Will I get to play? And will my opponent get to play? And if the answer to either of these questions is no, then I don't want to play that deck. And I don't expect anyone else to think the same way, but you should. Honestly, you kind of should. The world would be a better place if you did. Because as it stands, a lot of you play decks that are entirely meant to stop your opponent from playing the game, or to ensure that they just can't win at all costs. Also, quick side topic, but why do competitive players not like learning new cards? I have a friend that plays at tournaments very frequently. He had never seen Numeron Dragon before. And other people who go to my locals have talked about disliking how many cards and strategies are usable in this format. If you want to use the excuse of, it's hard to prepare for so many different cards and strategies, then all I have to say is that is literally the point of games. You're not meant to be prepared for every scenario. Your goal should not be to have cards that will win against these specific scenarios, but to have cards and to know your deck well enough that you can navigate it through anything you come across. That's called adapting and learning. That is how every other game ever works. I adore seeing other strategies and new cards. Learning about these cards gives me more ways to play my own decks. How can we innovate if we don't observe? I wish there were way more archetypes being played. I would love to see someone playing Peace Golem Control. If you can pull that off, you have my absolute respect, because that is just plain fucking awesome. There is a real problem with Konami printing strong cards, then having to make cards that can beat those strong cards instead of just removing the issue. Just one of these cards can completely invalidate the majority of any non-meta or rogue archetype, and I can only pray that going forward, Konami will try to reduce the overall power level of the game. And I think my prayers are going to be answered because the future's bright. Let's name a few current and future archetypes and strategies. Branded Chimera, as well as the new Gold Sarcophagus of Light and Earthbound Servant archetypes are insanely strong and powerful, but the boss monsters don't have any negation effects. Turns are short even though they're combo decks, and although they are incredibly simple strategies, they can achieve so much and are ridiculously fun. There are around 8 billion people in this world, and this game has 11,000 different cards. So obviously, you're going to see the same cards more than once. No one person owns a strategy, but when I see these exact same cards in every deck I play against, it's just not a good time. Now, that can be helped by formats, but I don't want to play a format without these cards. I want to play a version of YuGiOh where these cards just aren't being played by every single person. Winning is not a bad thing. It's a game. So of course, there's a winner and a loser. But if the vast majority of your joy while playing this game comes from victory, then I think you need to take a step back and reevaluate your reasons for playing this game. My hope for the game itself is that going forward, as more and more powerful cards are created, they also have a good restriction, locking you into an archetype or a type of monster, or requiring certain cards. Or the monsters have a very low stat line to match the powerful effect. My goal with this video isn't to condemn people who play meta. Okay, maybe just a little, but to instead share the perspective of someone who does not find joy in playing most meta strategies in any game, in hopes that maybe it will encourage you to switch your strategy up, and try having more fun playing the game itself instead of just pitting two known factors against each other. So to you, if you play to win, try adding weird cards to your decks. That's all I ask. So that being said, thank you all so much for watching, hope you've all enjoyed, and I hope you've all had a wonderful day. If you haven't, there's always the rest of your day. There is always tomorrow, the day after that, so on and so forth. Things do not get better unless you let them, so give yourself time and things will improve. I promise. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll see you guys next time.